My name is Caroline Yates. I live at 427 North Main Street in Graham, North Carolina. And Mr. Nall has asked me to speak a few words about life in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where I was raised, and say a few words about my experiences during the war, that is World War II. The World War II started for us as Northern Ireland, as part of the United Kingdom. We were in the bombing raids, and Belfast is a very big city, industrial city, a city where the Titanic was built, so they had big shipyards. They had aircraft factories, rope works, linen mills, and they used to make airplanes with the Irish linen. They had lots of industry. All of the industry was in Belfast, and that is why the Germans bombed Belfast. At that time, Belfast was separated, Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. And I think, if I remember rightly, that they started bombing Belfast to separate Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, so Hitler would have less people to invade. They thought they were going to invade Great Britain, but of course they didn't. I was 12 years old when the war started, and my mom and I were at home by ourselves. The rest of my brothers and sisters had all gone out for that evening, and we were in the house by ourselves. And as it happened, we got our first air raid on my birthday, April the 8th, 1940. And my mom says, well, Hitler has sent you a nice birthday present. And of course that was a joke in the family that he sent me, bombed the place. And the first thing I remember of the bombing was firearms in Northern Ireland are strictly prohibited. Nobody is allowed to have firearms, even for your own protection. So we were standing at the door watching these planes overhead, and we saw these parachutes falling. And my mother says, oh, the Germans are invading us. They really are invading us. So she says, since we were the only two, she says, you get the poker, I'll get a shovel, we'll get some kind of a utensils, and we'll fight these Germans. Come to find out, they were not Germans. They were what you called land mines, and they had a little parachute. Now sometimes those land mines went off immediately as soon as they hit. Sometimes we would call them duds, and they'd dig down into the gardens, and they might go off 2 hours from now. They might go off next week, or they might go off, we've known it be years before they would blow up. Maybe somebody was digging or something, and they found the landmine. And of course, after that, they started building air raid shelters for the civilians, and we would have to get off the streets. They'd say, clear the streets, clear the streets. You had to go to the nearest air raid shelter, or if there was no air raid shelter near you, where you were at that moment. Someone would open the door and invite you into their house just to get you off the street. The house may be full of people who didn't even know each other. The occupants of the house would put the tea kettle on, and serve everybody a cup of tea or something, and we'd talk and laugh and introduce ourselves. And it sounds odd to be talking and laughing in the middle of an air raid when bombs were going off. And somebody would start up a song, they'd sing a song. Next thing you know, everybody was singing. People didn't feel sorry for themselves. They said, when this is over, we're going to run all the Germans out of Belfast. But anyway, I met my husband when he came over when he was sent overseas, and he's from Danville, Virginia, and he fell in love with Ireland. He loved Belfast. He loved the people there, and the only thing was, 16 was a magic age for a young person because they finished school at 16. But I finished school when I was 15 because I started a year earlier. And I thought I was grown up, 15 years old. So I couldn't wait till I got to be 16. And like a young man nowadays can't wait till they get to be 21 and they would be their own boss. Now, I certainly wasn't my own boss because my mother ruled her home with an iron fist. When she told us to do something, it was yes ma'am. So when I got to be 16, then I loved to dance. And we had USOs for the personnel in the Army, Navy, Air Force. We had all nationalities, and the city was so full of military that you couldn't walk in the street. It was like walking down New York City on New Year's Eve. It was so full of people. And I met Arnie then at the dance, and he couldn't dance. He was a little boy from, like I say, Danville, Virginia, and he didn't know how to dance. So we had to teach him. We taught the GIs how to dance, and we thought they were the worst dancers in the world. And we would dance with them. A group of us girls used to meet at the dance, and my husband and a group of his friends happened to come in. They sat where we did, so we all continued to meet in the same place. And we tried to be kind to them, and we would dance with them. And you know, the GIs, they'll snitch on each other to get a girlfriend. And somebody we were dancing with told us they were single, you know. And you know, GIs away from home, they're gonna have girlfriends. And if they told us that they were single just to dance with us, it was just all in fun. Well, and one of their buddies said that he was married. Well, we wouldn't dance with him anymore because we figured he was lying. They were lying to us. And anyway, we forgave them after we found out, and we would dance with them because they needed recreation, dancing too. And we'd teach them how to dance, and we'd have soda pop because you weren't allowed in the dances that we went to, you weren't allowed liquor. You weren't allowed hard drink in there. It had to be soft drinks, and a place where you were not ashamed to bring your family into if they wanted to. So we really had, it's hard to think that in the middle of a war where people were being killed and being lost and being hurt, that you can laugh. But you know, you do, you laugh, you have fun. And people would take the GIs to church with them on Sunday and bring them home after church. They wouldn't get much to eat because we were heavily, heavily rationed. But there was always an extra cup of tea for a stranger, for anybody that came in. As a matter of fact, you would insult the householder if even if you didn't like tea. You would sip it just to please them, because no matter what was wrong with you, a cup of tea would always cure it. And my eldest brother, I had 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and I was the baby of the family, and I didn't get to go with my brothers and sisters because they were all way older than I was, and I had never dated before. I dated Arnie. I think he was the second time I had dated somebody, and I had turned 16. And he was so bashful at the time. But then he got to be just like the rest of us and laughed and talked and told us all about his family and all about America, because my mother used to think that America was full of gangsters, cowboys, and Indians. And nobody could change her mind that America wasn't full of gangsters. Of course, that's the movies for you. That's what we would see in the movies. And then he was you know, the Army and the Navy, all the services are never in the same camp one time. They're always changing camps. So he moved from Belfast to out into the country to finish the training. He didn't get all of his training in the States as he should have, as all of the guys didn't get it because they didn't have enough time. And he finished training, and that's why they, for an invasion of Normandy. And then he moved from there over to England. Meanwhile, we fell in love, and we'd been going together for about 2 years when he asked me to marry him, and of course I did. I said I would. Well, to get married, I don't know, some people got married without getting permission, but my mother had to have everything right down to the letter, and I had to go through all of this to get married. The company commander sent a letter to his people, his mom and dad, his minister, and character witnesses from people in Danville, Virginia, to get permission for Arnie to marry. And the Red Cross sent a representative from the Army to my family, to my house, to get my guardian's permission for me to get married. See, I was 17 then at the time. And evidently everything went okay. So he went on to France and to Germany. And while he was in Germany, the war was going strong. Then he got a furlough, and he came back to Belfast to get married, and we got married in Belfast. We got married in my whole family, the girls that I was working with, all walked out of work and to come to the church to go to the wedding. And then he had a month or 2 months leave, and then he had to go back to Germany again. And he stayed there, went to different towns in Germany, and there are different camps. And then while he was in Germany, his company, the guys in his company, were all Pennsylvania Dutch. So that meant they spoke German. Some of them didn't even know how to speak English until they started school. So when they took captives, the Germans would try to fool the interrogators, you know, that they didn't know, couldn't speak English. So then they found out that these guys could speak fluent German, and I think there was two guys, my husband and another guy were from Danville, Virginia. There was one from Baltimore, Maryland, in that garrison, and there was I think there was 4 of them. I forget now who the other one, what state he was from, but all the rest of them were from Pennsylvania, had Pennsylvania Dutch, and they loved those 4 Southerners. They picked on them and teased them, and but they were nice guys. And then whenever he got leave, whenever they were going to get discharged, when the war was over, they got discharged. He tried to get back to Belfast to get his discharge, and they wouldn't give him his discharge in a foreign country. So he had to come back here. I think it was Roanoke, Virginia, or somewhere up there, or Lynchburg, that he got his discharge. But meanwhile, back to the war, I was just telling Mr. Nall, there was no transportation at all for civilians. We had buses and trains, no cars, nobody. If my minister came to the house to visit, he had to ride his little bike. And it seems funny to the GIs to see a little minister riding his bike and calling on his parishes. And he was the chaplain of the St. John's Ambulance Brigade. Now they don't, if I am correct, they don't have a St. Andrews Brigade in America, but they do have it in the British countries like Canada and New Zealand and Australia. And I was 15 and I wanted to do my part for the war. So I joined. It was my minister got me to join the St. John's Ambulance Brigade, and we would take first aid courses, and of course I never had to use them because, like I say, we were too busy having fun at that age. I don't know what to do now. When Arnie got back to the United States and was discharged from the Army, he was in the States about 4 or 5 weeks before I got here. But I got priority traveling because, like I said, no one traveled. There was no transportation for civilians at all. And I got priority because I was a GI bride, for one thing. And another thing, my baby was just 6 weeks old. At that time, he was the youngest baby to fly across the Atlantic. And all the stewardesses and the people, well, there was even a GI groom on that plane. There was a guy married an American white, is that what you call them? There was a guy married an American white. So we traveled the same way. He got priority because he was a husband of an American personnel. But she was still over in England, and he got here before she did. And he came to New York to meet me, and I kept worried. Oh, I was so worried. I had never seen him out of uniform, without uniform. And I said, I won't know him. I won't know him. But I did. I knew him just as soon as I saw him. But he wanted me to get over here as quick as he could, because some GI brides came over, and all different kinds of boats. Queen Mary to tugboats. And I'm saying tugboats, one tugboats, but there were smaller boats. And he wanted to see his son. He couldn't wait, and he didn't want us to get sick. So, because some of the got sick. Sometimes it was seasick, and sometimes it was child diseases that the children were having on those boats. So he wanted us to get over there safely, and he came to New York to meet the baby and me. And we couldn't fly. We couldn't get a plane from in the States, so we had to take a train, and we got a train from New York down to Washington, D.C., and I think that was just about a couple of hours in travel time. And then we got there, we got into this train. I think it stopped at every cow pasture from Washington, D.C. to Danville, Virginia. And oh, I got sick then because it was in July, and the temperature was up near 90. And I had the clothes that I wore at home in the summertime. I had that blue wool suit on. I'm pointing to a picture to show him the wedding picture.
Lift that a little higher.
A blue wool suit that I was married in, and a white princess coat. Now, can't you see all that wool near 90 degrees? And I thought, I had never been in heat like that before. Never. In the summertime, it would be in the 50s, and middle 50s, or maybe 60. And I said, oh, Arnie, I believe I've died and gone to hell. This heat is making me sick. And it was making me sick. It was so hot. And we couldn't move around because we were packed into these trains. And anyway, when we finally got stopped at one of these cow pastures, they'd bring on drinks and things. Even the Americans were getting sick with the heat and the stuffy trains. And I met Arnie's people, and they were very nice people. I think they tried to be just as nice to me as my people were to Arnie. And did I take a lot of teasing on account of my brogue? I've lost my brogue. I'm a Southerner now. I say you all without thinking about it now. But I didn't then. I was really had a brogue. And uh, they used to tease me. At first I was so shy, and I would hang my head, and then I'd get used to it, and I would tease the folks back again, how they said things and how I said things. And then I'd been here for a few months, maybe a year or so. Anyway, and I had gotten so homesick. Sometimes I'd cry at night with my head in a pillow, and my husband wouldn't even know it. But I'd get homesick, and then I've been here 5 years when I got to go home and visit my mother now. And when I got home there, it was not the same. It wasn't my home anymore. People had gone different places. They had moved here, they'd moved there. Some of them had died. And I said, this is not my home anymore. My home's I was in Danville then. My home's in Virginia. I'm glad I'm going back. So I was here, I was going to stay 6 weeks in Belfast, and I couldn't stay 6 weeks. I think I stayed 3 or 4 and came back. And this has always been my home ever since then. I still love it. I still love Ireland. And I loved every time I went home for a visit. But I knew I was coming back here, and this is my home. And I've met a lot of lovely people, friends. I've got lots and lots of friends. And some people say I've still got a little bit of brogue, but I can't tell it. I still say I'm a Southerner.